Thanks a lot for that. It's good to have this session after lunch. You're not waiting to go to lunch, but it's also a little tricky. A lot of you all might be feeling a little sleepy. So we will keep this engaging. It's not often that we get to speak to Jay, who, given his role, right, it's the Chief Product and Technology Officer at Flipkart. So Jay, that should give you quite a ringside view, right, of the consumer. And given that the theme is to look at building consumer businesses and making it future-proof, how have you seen this journey at Flipkart? How is the consumer changing? And what are some of those key trends which you hope to capitalize on as you go forward?
Thank you, Anand. First of all, the title says building a business for 100 years, consumer business for 100 years. So, I mean, frankly, I don't have a crystal ball that lets me gaze that far into the future. But of course, it's an aspiration for every company to build a lasting business. So you should take it in a directional sense, not in an absolute sense. That out of the way. To your question, Anand, it has been a journey of a lot of learnings through the years. When Flipkart as a company started, the country's overall internet active user base itself was so small compared to the population of the country. Now the penetration has reached close to 50%, but nevertheless the adoption of e-commerce has not reached the same levels of proportions, right? So if you look at 700 million active internet users in any given year in the country, now there are only maybe about between 150 to 200 million people who do any sort of product shopping online. And in what we see is that as more and more of tier 2, tier 3 customers from geography perspective, right? So beyond metros and tier 1 cities, but tier 2 cities, tier 3 smaller towns adopt e-commerce, their needs are very different. And product innovation is the key to helping build their trust in e-commerce, enabling them to do discovery of products that will delight them. And that is where our company and my team are fully vested in, and we keep iterating on it through various product launches, experiments, and innovations.
Sure. So, I mean, you spoke about the tier 2, tier 3 customer, right? So, given that you also do, I mean, you look at a lot of data science, the role that you have, how is it that Bharat is different from, say, the metros, right? So, what is it that you need to do? And India kind of lives in Bharat, right? So what is it that you need to do from a future standpoint to cater to this consumer in tier 2 and tier 3? I think that pretty much is very relevant for a whole host of industries across sectors.
Yeah. So what we see in terms of consumer preferences when they come online from these geographies is their access needs even on the platform are very different from the early adopter metro tier 1 customer cohort that we are all used to seeing, right? And in many consumer businesses in the country. For example, the percentage of voice searches that come to our platform. So we have recently invested quite a bit in improving our voice models to be able to understand like phoneme detection, intent detection, and all of that for voice search, right? So it's given us immense benefits because the primary mode of engagement for these customers is voice, right? And visual mode of discovery, right? So rather than going through lots and lots of product descriptions, cataloged versions of it, and applying searches, filters, and being able to discover things, rather than that, we see a lot of the customers want actually more visual, video-fied versions of product discovery, product understanding. And vernacular has played a big part. Right? So if you look at almost 50 to 60% of our new growth actually today comes from tier 3 cities and beyond. And we see that predominantly a lot of the customers from those geographies in comparison to metro tier 1s prefer vernacular versions of interfaces. And when we see vernacular, when I say vernacular, it does not mean just changing the app skeleton to have all of your navigation icons, etc. be in vernacular, but it has to be a much more deeper experience. Right, being able to, we talked about search, for example. User-generated comments are a big part of letting customers do product shortlisting in a more informed way. and most user-generated comments are in English. So how do you make that be available for your vernacular user using machine learning and user-generated comments being automatically translated into language of choice for customers in a meaningful way? So lots and lots of such innovation. One more thing I'll call out is on the supply chain side. When we go beyond metro tier 1s into tier 2 and 3, last mile delivery becomes that much more difficult, right? Because there is no grid version of a city map, and there are no standardized addresses. So we've developed innovations like address intelligence service, which actually does geocoding based on even very, very imprecisely specified address strings, and be able to, at a very, very high level of accuracy, let our delivery folks on the ground know where to go and deliver the packages, right? So lots of such innovations, and these are some of the examples of how the needs and constraints and of the tier 2 and 3 customers and beyond differ.
Got it. So you spoke of quite a few technologies there. You spoke of AI, ML. You also spoke about being relevant to a consumer who's separated by geography. So apart from these technologies, if I were to say, look at Metaverse or blockchain, do you see any potential for that in your business?
Yeah, absolutely. I think these are emerging technology trends. We have started some bit of investments and innovation into this area as well. Very recently, we launched our platform called the Firedrops platform, and we issued airdropped NFTs into the custodial wallets of customers when they bought a Nothing phone that was launched on Flipkart platform as a exclusive, right? So that is our first foray into this world of Metaverse, but that there is a lot more to come, and over time you'll see us making more investments. Clearly, blockchain tech has lots of uses in even supply chain, trust building across multiple partners in the ecosystem that you work with through decentralized ledgers. And we are exploring a couple of use cases there as well. Aside from consumer side use cases like immersive stores, VR, and all of that as well. So you will see announcements whenever we are ready to talk about these in the future.
Sure. So now just shifting from, we're going to build consumer businesses, right? And therefore, while we've looked at the consumer, there are also other parts of the business, right? So there's this whole ecosystem which you're enabling. So particularly, not everything is going to be done by Flipkart itself, right? So you're going to use startups, you're going to use MSMEs. So what is it that you're doing to kind of build that ecosystem of startups, and how are you supporting that?
Absolutely. So one of the things that we have done over the last few years is to use the Kirana ecosystem that is really well established and entrenched in the country as our delivery partners, last mile delivery partners. So it gives a great way for them to supplement the income they get from running their Kirana store. And it gives us a way of doing last mile delivery at scale. And that's something that we have done. We have also worked with independent like artisans, weavers and others. We have launched a program called Samarth, where we support and bring online, digitize and bring online selection, which is very specific to certain regions of the country and all of that stuff to support that ecosystem. So coming to the startups, we absolutely realize that Flipkart cannot be the one doing all the innovation that is required to transform the digital vision for the country, right? So as a country, we have ambition to become perhaps $1 trillion digital economy, $2 trillion digital economy in the next 5 years, 10 years, right? So that vision cannot be accomplished by any single company. And we want to closely partner with startups. So we recently launched something called a Flipkart Leap Innovation Network, where we support startups. We make subject matters internally, experts internally available to them for, let's say, product design, go-to-market strategies, technology and architecture, maybe data science. So whatever the startups need to scale up their journey from where they are to the next orbit shift that they want to do. So that's received really good traction. We get like several hundred applications of extremely qualified startups applying for like 10 spots, right? So our vision is to actually keep scaling this Leap Innovation Network further. We also have a balance sheet fund from which we do invest in startups. So we do early stage investing through that balance sheet fund. and we have been able to attract and partner with some really good startups. And both from the Flynn network, as well as from the investee companies, we have also been able to partner with them to do actual commercial proof of concepts. And many of them have given us feedback that this has really helped them think through their product at scale in a real world situation with all the constraints that come with it, and that they have become that much better in terms of their product due to that partnership that we have been able to do with them. So these are ways in which we would want to continue to partner with the ecosystem, and of course benefit our customers, our sellers, and at the same time help support the thriving startup economy in the country.
Great. So thanks for that, Jay. Now I'm just looking at time. We have about 1.5 minutes, right? So that's 10% of 15 minutes. Quick audience questions. If there are a couple, we'll just take a couple and we'll close this session.
We have seen all these businesses like, Farmies. I was reading about it yesterday. They have taken more debt to, get rid of the old debt, be it Big Basket, Big Flipkart also. So the million-dollar question that we have always heard of, but not seen the answer to yet is, where is that, how do we crack that code to get profitable? There are various thoughts. Just want to know your views on not just Flipkart, but what do you see? What are the changes that you are making within Flipkart as well? And what are your thoughts on how could we achieve that in the next, say, 10 years?
Sure. So in terms of building consumer businesses for the long term, there is always an investment phase. And of course, we always hear this narrative that, hey, when is this investment phase going to end? And when can it be a self-sustaining business, which is making operating cash flows and profits, right? So every business has to decide it on their own based on their competitive dynamics, where they are in the growth curve, and so many other factors, right? So there is no single answer to it. But it has been proven over the last 3 decades that even companies that went for maybe a decade and a half, not being cash flow positive, have turned out to be massively profitable in the long run, and have dominated a lot of the markets they have been in. So and a lot of startups are actually starting to focus on their platform economics and fundamentals right now. Maybe the funding winter that is being talked about has forced the hand of many startups. But even otherwise, I think at Flipkart, as well as I would assume in most of the companies, the way you look at bottom line and growth, and look at your strategy narrative and figuring it out in terms of what is the right focus areas for you, is a continuing process, and we keep doing that all the time. There are parts of our business today that are actually are profitable already, and there are parts which we are continuing to invest in. So that's a natural cycle of business, and it's no different for us as for any other startup as well.
Okay, so I think we are out of time. One last question and we'll wrap up the session. And it came from there, so we'll go with that person. Yeah.
So firstly, thanks. This is Roman here from SSCB. My question majorly is a little different. On the grocery platform, which is growing, we've seen it has grown during the pandemic, and then it had some triple-digit growth because of the quick commerce coming in India. How do you see Flipkart, the marketplace, growing, and how does quick commerce going in future? That's one. And do you think this is going to consolidate like other telecom or any food services have gone and consolidated between 2 or 3 players only? Is that going to happen? And what are those growth levers?
So I think the quick commerce emergence that happened in the last year and a half is something that is too early for us to do a lot of future trend predictions on whether there'll be consolidation or not. At Flipkart, we have taken a view to it, and we believe that the right selection at the right value is far more important. And we have not yet ventured into looking at 10-minute or less than 10-minute delivery. I'm sure there is a cohort that values convenience a lot more than getting hyper value out of their purchase. And there is a product market fit for that with quick commerce. But at scale, when you operate it, whether this niche market will actually support platform economics in a sustainable way is a question that everybody is trying to answer. If somebody cracks the code on that, of course, they have a very profitable and growing business that they can build in the very long term. Yeah, so it's yet to be seen. I can't give you a very clear, straight answer on will there be consolidation, how will this evolve, and all that. I think a lot of experimentation has to happen in the ecosystem, and then we'll all figure out the answers together as things evolve over time.
Okay, so we'll conclude with that question. So thanks, Jay. Thanks for sharing your insights.
Thank
And
you.
all of y'all can have more questions, so please feel free to speak to Jay post this session. Just one final point on these two questions which were asked. See, globally, it's been seen that B2B businesses are more profitable than B2C, right? So that's a global learning. The second learning on quick commerce is that will there be consolidation? Yes, there will be consolidation. And again, what the key to that is, as consumers enjoy this model while it lasts, because unit level economics, making it work at 150 to 250 rupees of cost per transaction that you do, there's a lot of economics which have to really be managed to make it sustainable, right? So very quickly, just answering your questions, but happy to take more questions post the session. So thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.